Please recognize that a lot of the anti-Blackness directed towards Black Americans from foreign people of color derives from jealousy.
So many foreigners will come to this country and look down on Black Americans like we're like the scumbags of the earth and like turn their noses up at us and be racist towards us. And then all of a sudden, when they feel like they're in some type of debacle or they need some type of help, now they're looking at us like, oh, we're supposed to be standing in solidarity.
Trying to understand why all these people be sitting up here trying to tell Black Americans we ain't got no power. What are y'all talking about? We are the most powerful people in this country.
Please recognize that a lot of the anti-Blackness directed towards Black Americans from foreign people of color derives from jealousy. See, to be Black American is to be marginalized and disenfranchised, but from a foreign perspective, you're marginalized and disenfranchised in America, which is the best place to be marginalized in, from a foreigner's perspective. I am from a foreign family. I've said this before and it bears repeating. My family is Jamaican. I'm mixed race. I was born in Montego Bay, Jamaica, emigrated to the United States when I was 5, and I am now a naturalized citizen. So in addition to growing up and being socialized in America and matriculating through the American public education system and the university system, I have that lived perspective in addition to the lived perspective of being raised by foreigners. Like a lot of the opportunities for advancement, for job placement, for obtaining a formal education that are here in America, that exist in America, are of course taken for granted by American citizens who are born here. These opportunities are unheard of in most parts of the world. For example, in Jamaica, the opportunities for employment, right? You can graduate from high school here in America and literally go work at Target or at the Dollar Tree or go learn a trade or something like that. It's not desirable. It's not what society wants you to do. You know, society says that you should be working in a corporate structure, but the opportunity at least exists. There's also opportunity for obtaining a 4-year college degree through the provision of student loans that are widely available to most eligible individuals, in addition to community college and junior college that's available to folks who wouldn't qualify for federal student loans, but who can work and put themselves through school and pay for tuition out of pocket. Those similar employment and educational opportunities do not exist in places like Jamaica, where you have to be born into a wealthy family to be able to afford a 4-year college degree, because there is no national student loan structure to pay for a university degree. There aren't as many places for employment that don't exist outside of like a hospital or the tourism industry, or if you're not related to a family member who works in like the HR department or the hiring department for a particular place of employment. For example, how I, as an American citizen, can walk into a Costco or a Walmart or a Target or something and be hired based on, my experience or based on my knowledge or what have you. Those places don't exist in Jamaica. So being able to just walk into somewhere with a piece of paper and the ability to work and find that work, that itself, that opportunity is non-existent in most places in the world. So understand that foreign people of color who live in these places where opportunity is few and far between, unless you're born into the moneyed class or unless you're born into the noble class, look at Black Americans living in America and are envious and are jealous. And their thing is, well, what are you complaining about? You don't know anything about marginalization or what it truly means to be dispossessed or what it really means to be oppressed, because you're in America. You have all these opportunities, you have all these chances, you have justice, you have laws and discrimination laws that protect you. Those things don't exist where I'm coming from. So what's the big deal with you? And again, it's envy because, yeah, you're marginalized, but you're marginalized in America where you have a right to legal advice. You have a right to a speedy and fair trial. You have a right to be protected from unreasonable government search and seizure. You have discrimination laws that protect you. You know what I mean? Like you have all of these things that protect you that you're just born into just by accident of birth that I don't have in my own country. Mix that envy and jealousy in with the existing anti-Blackness that pervades almost every society on the planet, and boom, you have activists and the Palestinian liberation movement being anti-Black and racist towards Black Americans. For my Black American brothers and sisters, understand that that's where a lot of the antipathy from other foreign people of color comes from. Its basis is in jealousy and envy, and even though that sounds like an oversimplification, I promise you it's not. Again, I grew up in a foreign family, being raised by foreigners, living here in America, while at home I was being socialized as a foreigner, and then in public society and public schools that I was attending and jobs that I held, I was being socialized as an American. As an American, I can tell you that perspective that I'm speaking from is absolutely valid. And one last thing, another perspective to add to this is that when you come to America as a foreigner, in addition to fighting white supremacy, in addition to fighting poverty, now you're fighting xenophobia, right? Now you're fighting the immigration system and having to spend tens of thousands of dollars, if you have it, and years matriculating through the immigration system in the US. Foreigners like myself who have to deal with the United States Center for Immigration Services, who have to worry about ICE, who have to worry about whether their green card needs to be renewed, who have to pay for the exorbitant fees that it costs to apply for citizenship, because citizenship is not automatically granted to folks just because you live here for X amount of years. It is something that you have to apply for. It costs thousands of dollars and it takes years for your application to process. It's not an immediate, yes, congratulations, you're now a U.S. citizen. They have to go through your entire immigration record from the very date you set foot on U.S. soil to determine whether or not you're even eligible to be a U.S. citizen. And all while that process is ongoing, you are experiencing xenophobia, you are experiencing struggling with your dual identity. On the one hand, you're not fully American, so you're not quite in with American crowds, but on the other hand, your family and your immediate network don't view you as being a full native of the homeland either, because now you live in America and you grew up here and you've been socialized here. So you struggle with those identity complexes and whatnot, all while you're waiting for the US government to turn around and say, okay, yeah, you can be here forever now, basically. My mom raised my sister and I while my mom and I were undocumented immigrants. My sister was born here, thank God, but my mom and I were undocumented immigrants for 15 years. Not because we came here illegally, not because we came here, by subverting the process. We arrived with visas. My mother was married to my father, who was a Jamaican national, who was also a U.S. citizen. So this process wasn't because of any of our own doing. We came here, lived an upper middle class lifestyle, and came from the upper class of Jamaican society, and yet and still we still struggled. So for my Black American brothers and sisters, add all of those nuances to not explain away or to justify the racism and the anti-blackness that we're seeing from foreign communities of color, but to explain it so that you understand where it's coming from. Foreign people of color are deeply envious of Black Americans and the privileges and the liberties Black Americans seemingly have here in the United States. And yes, they full well know that those privileges are always at risk of being taken away by white patriarchal structures, because these foreign communities of color are subject to those same structures abroad. They know that. The issue is that unlike Black Americans, they don't have the balls to stand up to those patriarchal structures. And that's another element of the envy. Something that my Black American friends have taught me, a phrase that I carry with me everywhere, is that closed mouths don't get fed. Black Americans fully understand that and have understood that from day one, which is why Black Americans were marching, protesting, boycotting, burning down slave plantations, making speeches until rights that where they should have been born with were given to them almost by force. Black Americans were not afraid to stand up to white patriarchal structures and white supremacy, and still today stand up to white supremacy in ways that foreign communities of color are just too afraid to do. And those foreign communities of color are also envious of Black Americans' bravery for standing up to white supremacist structures, and then in turn being rewarded with rights and liberties for standing up to those structures. Unfortunately, this is all just another version of high school. It's all just another version of schoolyard bullying, and foreign people of color are just very deeply envious and jealous of the privileges they think Black Americans have in the United States, and how Black Americans are born into those privileges, and also the ballsy bravery and courage that Black Americans have in demanding that those privileges, those rights, those liberties stay in place.
Trying to understand why all these people be sitting up here trying to tell Black Americans we ain't got no power. What are y'all talking about? We are the most powerful people in this country. Do y'all understand that these people are single-handedly destroying themselves because they are dead set on destroying Black American people? I mean, honestly and truthfully, they are fucking this country up and fucking themselves up, which is perfectly fine, because I already said, until y'all do right by us and we get them reparations, y'all won't have no country for us. So, but anywho, if you don't believe me and you want me to explain it, this is why I keep saying all the time, y'all really need to study and look into Black American history, because then you'll understand how we ended up here. Motherfuckers talking about some bring manufacturing back to America. They got rid of manufacturing because black Americans dominated their industry and black Americans started going on strike and asking for higher pay. So they shipped all the industries overseas just to not pay us. Now America can't even wipe its ass unless China sends them the tissue. Then, historically, college was free. College was free until black Americans started wanting to go to college. And once black Americans started wanting to go to college, that's when they decided they wanted to come up with something called tuition. And now everybody got to pay for education. And education keep going up and going up. And the price of education keep rising because black Americans started having higher participation in higher education. Multiple presidents have presented the idea of giving Americans universal health care, and them motherfuckers voted against it every single time just because they didn't want black people to have it. The only way that they would vote for universal health care is if it wasn't universal and only included them and not black American people. Now everybody sitting up here gotta make life decisions on if they should go to the ER or not, even though they see a bone sticking out of their goddamn leg. Then black Americans started coming up a little bit because once we started getting education and we started having more of us enter into the middle class, they wanted to make the middle class even more unobtainable. That's when the cost of living started rising. You can go ahead and track the shit and see. The cost of living started rising and rising and rising, but pay wasn't rising. And these employers and shit didn't even want to keep up with the shit. Now everybody's struggling. Then we had to deal with redlining, right? Where they was intentionally trying to keep black Americans out of neighborhoods and shit. They didn't even want to give us home loans and was doing all that redlining and shit, right? So once black Americans could afford to live into these nicer areas, these landlords and shit started raising the prices of that shit just so that black Americans couldn't afford to rent or lease their house. Don't y'all come on this bitch and start lying and saying, no, that's not what we did. That is exactly what the fuck y'all asses was goddamn doing. Y'all asses was making sure that black Americans could not afford to live in them goddamn areas and shit. So you kept making the areas more and more expensive to live in. That's also why y'all started them goddamn HOAs. Y'all also was gatekeeping good education in good school districts. That's also why y'all made them neighborhoods more and more unaffordable. You didn't want black students getting a quality education. Then to undercut black Americans, because black Americans was in the middle of a strike. We was just coming off the tail end of the civil rights movement. Y'all decided to import all them goddamn immigrants and shit who accept lower pay than Americans do. And now them motherfuckers is making it difficult for black and white people to get a goddamn job. Because why I'm going to sit up here and answer y'all damn requests for $25 an hour when there's a motherfucker over there that'll take this damn job for $10.50 an hour. Exploitation and finding the cheapest labor possible has always been the American way. That's why America was built off of slavery, free labor. And y'all asses run around here crying about the quality of school lunch and free lunch. Michelle Obama tried to fix that problem for y'all, but y'all decided to just go ahead and portray her as a monkey and a gorilla and all kinds of other stereotypes and shit, laughing and kikiing it up. Now your kids hungry and shit in school, and people in there feeding them chicken nuggets and goddamn french fries instead of the healthy meals that y'all want. And then y'all go in the polls and vote against the goddamn SNAP assistance and food stamps that y'all knew that majority of y'all was getting in the first goddamn place. Not to mention the fact that y'all voted against DEI and affirmative action because one group of people didn't know that they were a part of affirmative action and fucked around and found out, and then they goddamn college admission started dropping, and then white women started getting fired left and goddamn right as soon as they removed DEI because them motherfuckers ain't know that they was DEI. Not to mention the fact that people voted they goddamn selves out the country, worrying about us and thinking that we would be sent back to Africa. Damn shame. Then we could have been living in the future looking like goddamn China. Y'all went y'all asses over there to Red Nose, started goddamn crying when y'all seen how advanced they were. But they got 54 ethnicities, and they don't ban any of those 54 ethnicities from participating in any industry at all, unlike y'all, which stunted the growth and innovation of America because you got all these brilliant people, but y'all won't put them in positions to be brilliant because you're racist. Okay? Black Americans got all the power in the world because as long as these motherfuckers is racist, they're going to continue to destroy themselves. We don't have to do shit. They taking their goddamn selves out. If that ain't power, I don't know what is. Also, because life has gotten so expensive, them motherfuckers can't even afford to have kids, so now they dying out and going crazy because they don't know what the fuck to do with their population numbers. Okay? Who runs this bitch? We run this bitch. Who run this bitch? We run this bitch by tearing their ass up with their own racism towards us. Have a good day.
So many foreigners will come to this country and look down on Black Americans like we're like the scumbags of the earth and like turn their noses up at us and be racist towards us. And then all of a sudden, when they feel like they're in some type of debacle or they need some type of help, now they're looking at us like, oh, we're supposed to be standing in solidarity. We're all POCs. POCs. It's like, well, first of all, more importantly, there is no country that you can go to on this earth where you don't have to have some type of visa or there's not some type of immigration law. So if you're in a country, any country, illegally, then at some point you're probably going to get caught and you're probably going to be deported. So why wouldn't America be any different? And my thing is this, like, if you're burning American flags, but you're fighting to live on American soil, like you're burning the flag like as if you hate America, but you want to live in America. You're fighting and you're upset because you want to live here. Now I could see like if we're at war and you burn the American flag, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you're on your own soil and you're burning American flags. I get it. But you're fighting to stay here illegally and burning the American flag because you want to live in a country that has freedoms and opportunities that your country is not able to provide you. They're separating families. Families are getting torn apart. It's like that's what happens when you break the law. That's what happens. Just like if you were to go to jail, you would be separated from your family and you would have to go to jail. It's the same thing. Like you're here illegally. You didn't do things the right way. You let your visa expire or whatever. Just do what you're supposed to do like everybody else has to, and everything will be fine. I don't know. I just find it funny how everybody comes over to this country with their nose turned up against Black folks until they need help.